like the people that lived in the city centers, it was almost, well, it was first world. Like they had cell phones, computers, laptops. They have smartphones. It's always a little delayed from the U.S. The U.S. will get something like we'll get a smartphone, and maybe half a year later they'll get it. So they're just like the U.S. And a lot of them kind of worship, not worship, but they really look up to the U.S. They want to learn English, and that's kind of one of their big goals is to learn English because they can earn a lot more money, and they can go visit the U.S. or be in the U.S. And then as kind of you move out, like each city is kind of, it's almost like the ancient times where there's like the castle, and then it goes pour out. That's kind of how it is. It's like they have high rises, they have like they have McDonald's, they have all those like restaurants and everything in the very center of the city. And as you go out, it gets poorer and poorer. And when you get to the very outskirts, there's like the people who don't really have water. They'll get water like once a week, and they'll fill all their barrels and everything. And then when you go further out from that, that's where the natives will live on their own land, kind of out in the outskirts. And the natives are just they're like they don't wear clothes for the most part. Like they'll find like a pair of basketball shorts or something. They'll have that on, or some of them even wear just like kind of the traditional clothes like you'd think of, like not really a loincloth, but they make their own clothes. They make their own like pants. So they're out there and they have bows and arrows. They don't have cell phones. They don't have electricity. They don't have running water. They just live off the land, just like they used to here. And so it's kind of interesting because we'd go in the center of town. I never really worked in the center very much, as far as like I always lived in kind of not the villages with the natives, but close to them, with all the kind of more the third world, where they have running water sometimes they don't. There's sewer. They don't have sewer. They just have the sewage tanks in their houses. And so it's kind of there's a big change from when you go in from the city and out. But everybody has, well, except for the natives, they'll have the smallest house. Their house will be falling apart, but they all have a cell phone, and they all have like a sound system. It's like the big thing is their sound system. And so the people that kind of live in the outskirts, they usually have their pride and joy is their car with their sound system in it, and they'll just drive down the streets playing all their, they call it funk, but it's nothing like funk here. It's usually kind of dirty music, but they just kind of run through the streets just blasting their music, and it's kind of one of the biggest shocks for me. As you go, I didn't understand it. My companions didn't like it because they were always Brazilian, so they understood the music, but to me it was just like this crazy music going through the street. And I had one companion who was really, he professed to be half native, like half Indian, I guess, but I don't know if he really was or not. But it made him really interested in their language, their culture. And so he's one of my companions that really pushed to go teach them, and he'd go, and because there's always a few, especially the kids, they would speak Portuguese, and so we could talk to them, and they would talk to their parents, and some of the older generation, kind of the parents of the kids would know, but the older ones, like the grandparents, the great grandparents that lived there, most of them didn't know Portuguese, and so they'd kind of be the kids would be translating back and forth between them. And so my companion really got into it, and he'd write down words, like to learn, to be able to talk to the older people, kind of give them more respect and show them. But they didn't have they didn't have a Book of Mormon in that language, the natives that I've interacted more with. And there wasn't really, like, we'd go in their homes. It's kind of, they're really kind of hierarchy. So like the elders, you talk to them first, and then you don't really talk to the younger generation. They would translate for the older generation so we could communicate, but you talk to elders first. If you want to like enter their land, you ask the elder. If you want to like enter their residence at all. You talk to him if you want. Like there were some people, some of the kids wanted to go to church with us. They wanted to, and eventually some of them wanted to be baptized, but they'd also always have to get the permission of the elder there. And some we got good relationships with some of them. There was a mother that really liked us, and she kind of adopted us as her. I don't know if she really considered us children, but at least she really liked us, and she'd make us little armbands and bracelets. They did a lot of trading with like arts and crafts kinds of things. They'd make little Indian, like little native trinkets and things. They'd sell them, and they'd give them to us. Or at first we would try and buy them from us, but buy them from them, and they gave us a couple, which was kind of neat because they're really unique little arts, and a lot of them. Well, some of the villages they wouldn't let us in at all, and they'd have a lot of them had really like Catholic background, which was they'd allow, like some of them they'd have a vote and they'd allow a religion in or not, and some of them had they had a Catholic pastor that would live with them, and working with them was really fun though, just because it was really kind of like the Book of Mormon, where they talk about teaching the Lamanites where they didn't have a knowledge of they didn't have knowledge of Christ or things like that. You had to go like really rudimentary. The ones that did were the ones that wouldn't let us in, that they already voted in a different religion. Like the ones that would let us teach them, a lot of them believed in like a great spirit. They didn't believe in Christ or God even. It was just kind of a great spirit, or some of them had like plural gods, like they had many gods, like they had ones for the earth and the sky and things like that. And there was the main spirit, which was their great spirit. And so we just had most of them, the ones that we actually would teach, that would let us teach them, we had to just kind of talk about the great spirit and equate it to God, and then tell them God has a son, and then from there we could teach them once they understood that. But it was more of a basic, because most of the people in Brazil are either Catholic or Protestant or something like that, so they believe in Christ. But the natives, they didn't even know who Christ was for the most part, Christ or God.